Hi guys, welcome back to Frontend Hero. In today's tutorial we're going to be using advanced custom fields and we're going to be using the Pro version to create a custom Gutenberg block. The block will list the recent posts on the blog, nothing too crazy, but it will give you a good idea how to create your own blocks with the power of advanced custom fields. So without further ado, let's dive in. So the first thing we want to do is open our functions.php file, and we're going to hook into ACF inits, but before that we're just going to run a quick check to see if, needs an underscore there. We're just going to check if advanced custom fields register block is enabled or exists. Register block. Okay, and if it does, which it will because I'm using the Pro version, we're going to add an action and target ACF/inits with this function here. We're going to call this function Frontend Hero custom blocks. So now down here below, now we're going to create this function here, and we're going to use ACF register block and give it some values. So here is our function, but before that we're going to give it a quick check again just to make sure that this this function exists. So here we go. So now we can play with this ACF register block. And we're going to provide an array of values. If I could spell array, that would be fantastic. Okay. Right, so we're going to first of all give it a name, and this name I think can only include alphanumeric characters and an underscore maybe, but nothing too crazy, no like special characters or anything. So we're just going to call this recent posts, and we're going to give it a title, and this will show up in the Gutenberg block editor. And we'll give that a name of recent posts and a description. Description. There we go. Okay. I never normally use descriptions in my own blocks, but just for the purposes of this tutorial, we'll just call it recent posts block. Very descriptive. Okie dokie. Now we're going to give it a render callback. You can use a render template. A render template meaning that you can provide different files, one file per block for instance, but a render callback you can include the block in a functions.php file or something else like that. So for the purpose of this tutorial, and we only have one block, I'm just going to include in the functions.php. So easy. So call back. We'll get there one day. There we go. Okay, so we're going to give it a callback. I'm going to call this function fe recent posts callback. Easy. Next we're going to give it a category, and this is pretty cool if you have, or you will have, many blocks and you want to organize them in your own little category. So we're just going to call this fe Frontend Hero and give it some keywords. So you can search for these blocks with these keywords, which is pretty cool. So we're going to give it an array. I think you can only give it up to 3 keywords at this moment. Could be wrong, but I think it's only 3. Give it a fet, recent, and posts. So if you search for either of those keywords, this block will show up. And I think that's about it at the moment. So now we want to give that a semicolon. Okay, right. So that's it at the moment. So because we created a category here, unfortunately, Advanced Custom Fields or Gutenberg doesn't automatically create this for you. We're going to have to add this in ourselves. So down here, we're going to create a function called fet category. And we're going to pass in a categories and post value. Now we're going to add an array merge function. And we're going to add categories and get supplied an array. And in this array, we're going to give our category a slug, which is fet. And we're going to give it a title. Which will be fet blocks. So this will show up in your category in the Gutenberg block panel. And give that, add in that last bit there. Okay. And we're good to go. So that's our category sort then. Now we're going to add it to the filter. And that filter is block categories, and give it our fet category function name. Okay. What am I missing there? Oh, return array merge. I'm going to have to semicolon. Okay, good to go. That should be all there. So now what we're going to do is going to upload this and pop into our WordPress panel. So we're going to go into our custom fields panel as you normally would, and we're going to add a new group. So now we're just going to call this recent posts. And now instead of linking it to a post type or a page or whatever, we're going to scroll down near the bottom, click block, and luckily, no errors, our block is there. So now we're going to just give that a quick publish there. So we could actually use that in one of our pages now, but it wouldn't really do a lot. So it would show up, but we need to add some field groups. So what we're going to do is add some fields. And the first one we're going to add is just a little heading for our recent posts, nothing too crazy. The next one is, this is going to show how many posts will show on the front end. So how many posts to show. It is what it is. And we're going to make this a range. So we're going to give it a minimum value of say 1, and a maximum value of 4. Okay, and then our last field will be to whether we want to include an image or not. And this will be true or false. So if you want to show your featured thumbnails or not. Okay, so that's it for the moment. Give that a quick update there. Okay, so now we're going to pop back into our functions.php file, and when we created our register block, our recent post block, we gave it a render callback, and this name was fet recent posts callback. So now this is where we actually add in our code. So we'll scroll down here a bit, and we're going to give this a function. And we're going to include the block variable, block parameter. And here is where our block outputs, our block contents will show, should I say. So what we're going to do first is going to copy and paste some bits and pieces. So here, 2 bits that Gutenberg includes by default is the align class and class name. So let's leave that there. So these are included by default. You've probably seen them using Gutenberg yourself. So we're going to add these to our main recent posts wrapper. But first, we're going to actually create our wrapper here. So we're going to call this recent posts wrapper section ID recent posts, and give it a class. Okay. Okay, looking pretty good so far. No errors anyway. So yeah, we're gonna add these 2 guys in here. Align class and class name. If you want to add some custom classes yourself after you make this plugin. And give it a space. And then we're going to include the align class. I think that looks good. Okie dokie. So now I'm just going to do a quick test here. So if I upload this, and I go into a page, and I pop into a page where I want to show my recent posts, I'm going to add in a block, and I'm going to search for fet. So now we've got our recent posts, and so we see test is showing up here, so it works, it's alive, which is fantastic. So with that said, we're going to pop back into functions.php, and now we're going to add in our custom fields. So we're going to grab our heading, add in some PHP tags. So we're going to grab our heading, which is get fields, and that is just heading. Nice and simple. Duplicate this, duplicate that. So the next options are how many, I think it was posts to show. I think that's it. And the final one is if we want to include an image or not. And there are our ACF fields, not ASF, ACF. I always get mixed up with those. So here we're going to actually display this heading now. So first up, we're going to just check if it actually exists, if there was a value given in the block editor. So if heading echo heading, and we're going to give this a heading of 3, H3, and close that there. Okay, cool. Upload that. And now we're going to include or create an area for the blog posts. So down here, we're going to create a sub kind of wrapper. And this recent post wrapper, I'm going to call it grid to be pretty generic. You may want to call it something better, but for the moment, I'm just going to call it grid, so you know exactly what it is. I'm using CSS grid, or I will be, to style this. And here we're going to give it a grid value of 1, 2, 3, or 4, the values that we've given in the ACF range fields previously. So here I'm going to include this. Echo this out. Oh, that's the wrong, we don't know. That's the wrong fields. So how many fields, how many posts to show here? This could be a value between 1 and 4. So when this is outputted in the browser, this will be grid, the class will be grid, and then grid hyphen 1, 2, 3, or 4. So quite easy to change those in the CSS later on. So now we've got our wrapper. What we're going to do is create a custom WordPress loop. So switch to PHP again. And we're going to create some arguments for this recent posts WordPress loop. So we're going to give it a post type. Of post, and we're going to limit how many posts will show, posts per page, and we're going to include this guy here again. So between 1 and 4, and this will output between 1 and 4 here, so it's nice and simple. So here's our arguments array now, and now we're going to create our custom WordPress loop. So we will create, call it a new variable called news recent posts equals new WordPress query, and we're going to pass in that args array there. Okie dokie. Now we're going to run our new custom loop. So while recent posts excuse me. While we have posts that will show, and the matching criteria is it's a post and it's a value of 1 and 4. So if have posts, yeah, get the post object. I think that's right. Hope so. Anyway, right. finish this end while loop. Now we've got an issue. What is wrong? Oh, yeah. Okay, so now our loop should be working okay. And right now I'm going to create individual blog post divs. So let's first call these just div, and we're going to pass in, I think it's post class. So this will generate all the classes for us in this post, like h entry, the ID of the post, and so on. Okay, post class, I think that's right. Yeah. We're going to give it an ID as well. Actually, there's no point in giving an ID at the moment, just for this example. So we'll just leave it at class for the moment. Now we're going to check if, as we're going to show the images first, we're going to check if this value is true or false. So switch to PHP again. If there is an image, display an image. So now we want to show the post thumbnail. So if there's no post thumbnail in the blog post, it won't show. So the post thumbnail, right? That should be okay. So the next piece we're going to show is the dates. Just a simple paragraph tag, and we're going to echo get the date. Nice and simple. Okay. Now we're going to give it a heading, which is just a general, I think it's got the title, that's it. Just a general name called the title. Yeah, so we're gonna make this a link. And give it a permalink. The permalink. Okay, we seem to be getting there. And then now we want to give it a little excerpt. You could even create like more custom fields, like to toggle off the excerpt, this type of thing. So where are we? But for this tutorial, we just have 3 basic fields. So we're going to give it a class of excerpt, and we're going to call the excerpt function. Okay, and the last bit for this content is a link with a read more, and we're going to give that a link too. So copy that permalink, cool, and we'll just call that read more. Yeah. All right, so I think that's all of our blog posts. Yep. So just at the bottom here, after the end while tag, we're going to say WP reset post data. Post, not posts. So just in case you have a few WordPress loops on your page, this won't mess anything up. So that looks pretty good to me. So now we're going to add in our block and configure some fields. So we're going to add in a new page, call it recent posts, and search for our block. We'll search for recent posts. And great, it's showing our recent posts here. So it's showing quite a few of them. So we're gonna have to edit that. So click the edit button here. We're gonna give this block a heading of recent posts and give it a value of 3 posts show, include the image. Yes, save that. Give it a quick publish. So if we pop back in here now, it should only show 3 posts. So let's see what that looks like at the moment. So here we can see our 3 recent posts, but I'll wrap this up and just include a bit of CSS real quick. Just before we do that, let me just see. So that value, that number 3 we gave in the range, displays nice here. So pop back into our style.css, create a quick class called grid, display grids, and give this grid 3 class a quick styling. So we're going to give it a template, grid template columns, and we're going to make it 3 column. So obviously you'd have to do this for each amount of columns you do, grid 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Well, grid 1 wouldn't really be, but 2, 3, and 4. So that looks good to me. Give it a quick grid gap of say 25 pixels. Upload that. Give this a quick refresh. Now we have, I mean, it needs a little bit of work, but there's the basic idea. So yeah, now we have a nice recent posts Gutenberg block made with ACF. So obviously we've only touched on the subject of creating Gutenberg blocks in ACF, but hopefully it gives you some ideas to create functionality for your site and client sites. If you like this video, stay tuned. I've got a few more coming in the next week. Please subscribe and see you in the next video.